Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's round 4 of the Ozicar Formula 4 Championship. We've had sprint races, we've had weather, we've had all sorts, but now it's a 50-minute endurance race. One race this round from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, Belgium. Awesome, but intimidating 7-kilometre track for our drivers. And their entry-level open wheelers, bit of horsepower, bit of grip. It's put on some really, really awesome racing so far this championship. We've been excited to bring it all to you here on Simspeed TV. I'm David Haynes with Jason Fewens, Daniel Yeaman in the production to bring us the pictures, the replays, and everything we're going to need as we get ready to go racing, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's a circuit we've been looking forward to since it was announced at the end of last season. Spa is one of those tracks that's really well suited to anything that's Formula orientated. Great downforce. We've got 14 eager beavers out there tonight competing along the for the 50-minute enduro. So a lot of regular names there, championship contenders as well. So 50 minutes is going to be a long time for these guys to get their head around things. Incidents are going to be an issue here potentially. Track limits are easy to rack up, so try and keep them under control early. As we have a quick look at the track, it's one of the longest circuits we go to, just over 7 kilometres long from flag to flag, consisting of 19 corners, including that very iconic bus stop chicane at the end, that heavy braking zone.
Said this about Imola very, very recently on Simspeed TV, but this is another one of those race courses that used to be public roads, and then it was so popular as a racetrack, it became a permanent racing venue, and they just had to build new bypass roads around the outside of it, so it could be a racetrack 24/7, 365, when the weather permits, though. Unfortunately, around here, racing since 1921, this current layout, 7 kilometres long, it used to be even more massive and intimidating, still retains a lot of that character. We're on the regular Grand Prix layout tonight. Eau Rouge, Radion, other corners like that, ones to watch out for. Qualifying has just wrapped up. That set the grid for this 50-minute race. With a 50% fuel tank restriction, we're going to expect to see everyone through that Grand Prix pits at least once in this upcoming 50-minute race. They're gridding up right now, so let's get to that to bring you the qualifying order ahead of 50 minutes. Jamie Stovald on the front row. There's John Merritt. He's back with us, and he sneaks into second, just fractionally behind, less than a tenth of a second. Also within that tenth of a second from pole, Tom Freer, the pole sitter's teammate. Tony Baker is in 4th place there, and then it's Tim Harris and Doug Gowans in 5th and 6th. Milton Borton and Ben Wheeler are on the row behind there. The top 10 completed by Warren Henry and Nathan Verney. Also joining us on the grid for Formula 4 tonight, Brent Wassel and John Snell are 11th and 12th. And Ira Felberg is in 13th. Jordan Dakin in 14th has no qualifying time. Jason, that's a driver we could expect to see pick up some spots across 50 minutes.
Yeah, Jordan's one of those drivers who's either having a really good night or a really bad night. We know he's got speed on his side. Hopefully tonight can be one of those where we can see him come through the field and provide some really good action for us to view here on Simspeed TV. Draft is going to be a big thing, particularly on these opening laps. So you want to stay within the realms of the car in front of you. Probably don't want to get into a battle too early. Like I said, 50 minutes is a long way around here, and if you find yourself in no man's land, it could be a long, lonely drive to the checkered flag.
And the weather, you see no rain, you see a dry track, but it's 20 in the air, 30 degrees Celsius on the track, and a decent stiff breeze blowing from the northeast there. So in these little cars, keep an eye out for that. Not expecting too much rain. In fact, yes, the forecast has it at 0% chance of rain, but potentially getting more overcast and the track cooling somewhat as we go. And we are about to go. The green lights ready, the drivers ready and revving. Jamie Stovall on the pole position with the inside line to turn number 1. Milton Borton, the driver, missing from the grid. The other 13 drivers all here. And from 5th, that looks like Tim Harris got a really good launch. He's going to try to look around the outside of the La Source hairpin, turn 1 on the Grand Prix layout. All the rest of the drivers squeezing themselves tight to the apex. Tim Harris goes round the outside and he picks off 2 of them. He's up in the 3rd place. Not a great start from Tom Freer there as he loses 2. Jamie Stovall still leads, but they're about to go up Eau Rouge and onto the Camel Straight where the slipstream of these F4 cars will kick in big time.
Yeah, plenty of caution going up on Rouge for the first time. No temperature in the tyres as yet. We jump on board, I think it might be Timmy Harris, sorry, with that paint scheme. So he's in the draft of his teammate in front. Pulls out going into the first heavy braking zone. No brake lockups as everybody goes through single file with no one pushing the issue too wide.
John Merritt had a bit of an opportunity on Jamie Stovall at the end of the Camel Straight. Didn't happen though, and your field remains very, very close with that powerful slipstream around what's known as a very high speed, very high average speed race course. A very, very mountainous version of Monza, perhaps. A few less chicanes, but we'll get to the bus stop later on, and everyone else makes it through. And Milton Borton, who wasn't on the grid, I think has just made a pit lane start potentially. So there's a chance that we have everyone, and you see the bulk of the field heading downhill. A lot of elevation change around here, rivaled only by Mount Panorama that has more.
Yeah, just had a quick look. Milton Borton wasn't actually in pit lane as the racing got underway. He's just gone through on Rouge now, so he's going to find himself 3/4 of a lap behind from the start. So that's going to be a very, very long, lonely race. So strategy is the only thing that's potentially going to get him back into this unless we have a safety car of some kind.
Yes, indeed. Almost a whole lap behind, so that's 3.5 kilometres. This is your top 3. They're so close. Another high-speed section of the racetrack. Heading towards the committed Blanchimont corner. Jamie Stovall, middle of the road. Sees John Merritt get to the inside of him, heading towards Blanchimont. In we go, and John Merritt takes the race lead. Tim Harris, he's already made 2 spots this lap, and he's all over them now as well. Merritt looks to defend that, and Stovall goes around the outside, heading into the bus stop chicane. They're still going to be side by side, and out of the final corner to complete the first lap, we're almost in a dead heat situation. Tim Harris is going to look to follow John Merritt through if he can as well. Side by side further back with what could be Ben Wheeler and Doug Gowans. Not sure, but this high-speed nature of the track in the F4 cars, the field is still so close, and there's 50 minutes of this.
Yeah, you can see Milton Borton via the relative on the left-hand side back in the pit, so he has had an accident on the opening lap, lost his rear wing after hitting the wall. So he's towed back to the pits already, so definitely not the start he wanted after an already delayed start. That's very, very wide through on Rouge for the first time for one of the Tune Pulse Toyota cars.
Yeah, but no slowdown penalty. It got super close. You see 2 wide for the race lead, 3 wide back there. Tim Harris could make it 3 wide for the race lead, but he's a little smarter than that this early in the race. That's a tough situation to be in. Doug Gowans is the one who has to back out of it, heading into there. Just as we cut away, Ben Wheeler's now in the fence. So we'll take a look there because there has been a little bit of contact. 3 wide made way for 2 wide, and then 2 wide contact was made, and Ben Wheeler is also going to tow. And Doug Gowans looks very clever for wanting no part of that.
So single file after going through 2 wide there for a small section. Warren Henry falls back into line. He looked pretty racy there early on, but he's had to succumb to the position and fall back in line, as I said. So down through this tight sweeping left-hand sequence corners here, very, very easy to run out wide, get yourself an off-track through there, so hold it nice and tight through the apex, get a good run, and again, quick right-left change of direction down here. You've got to keep the cars stable on that change of direction, otherwise you can find yourself out in the dirt on the right-hand side.
Brett Russell's already been one of the big movers of this race as well. He's in 7th at the moment, having made 4 spots. So there's been a bit of chopping and changing already in these first 2 laps. And this is the lead of Stovall with John Merritt looking to take it back again. Replay of a lap ago, really. Heading to Blanchimont. John Merritt gets in front of Jamie Stovall. Tim Harris in third. Tom Freer is just back there in 4th place, a little off these guys at the moment. If you side-by-side for the lead once again into this big braking zone to close out the lap.
Yes, battle for 3 up the front. Tom Freer, like you said, just sitting 1.2 seconds back from the leader. So he's only really just over half a second away from the car in front. So definitely got draft to help pull him along. Having a quick look at John Snell coming into grief at the end of lap number 2, as we have Jamie Stovall taking the fastest lap of the race on his second flying lap around the circuit.
Brent Wassell, Snell and Warren Henry all came together in the braking zone to the bus stop there. Take a look at what happened when we can. There's a few of them around that 7th, 8th, 9th position, making a bit of contact. Jordan Dakin picks up a couple more spots because of it. So Gowans battling there with Tony Baker heading up the Camel Straight. John Merritt retains that race lead for the moment, with Stovall just in behind him. So this is what we're looking at for John Snell. He pulls off and then crashed in front of him.
Yeah, it almost looks like there's something happening further up the road with Brent Wassell.
Wassell and Warren Henry is what we really need to see, and it's what we will.
Very, very wild ride for the Ozicar team member there up against the fence. So he'll have some significant damage after that with his suspension. We'll jump on board and just see how it all unfolded via Warren Henry's car. Lucky to keep it on the shiny side up, I guess.
Hello, Australian Grand Prix 2002 race start. Is that you, Ralph Schumacher? It was eerily reminiscent of that. Doug Gowans has just had a little bit of a spin, so from a really, really closely packed field at the start of this race, starting to spread out somewhat. John Merritt, Jamie Stovall, Tim Harrison, Tom Freer is your top 4 coming back together again, but beginning to drop a few of the drivers behind, like Tony Baker, like Doug Gowans, like even Brent Wassell and Warren Henry.
It looks like Dougie Gowans has just lost a couple of positions too. Tony Baker, Nathan Burney has got past him and he's lost probably 2 or 3 seconds in the process. So jumping on board now, we're looking out the back of Jamie Stovall. You can see Tim Harris there just taking a different line through the entry of the bus stop, getting a good run out to complete lap number 4. Not much of a draft opportunity down the main straight into this braking zone. It is possible, but only if the car in front makes a little error. And Jamie looks like he's got things under control there. He's got his eyes focused forward on the leader, John Merritt, who's half a second up the road.
Yeah, now looking forward from 3rd place at 2nd and 1st. You're heading downhill here. You're picking up a whole heap of speed, as you can tell. And then you want to keep it flat as you can. Heading up the hill, the speed bleeds off pretty significantly in these cars, and John Merritt looks to break the toe early. Stovall hasn't looked particularly aggressive. Can only do so much to try to break the toe that's otherwise very powerful in his long, full throttle runs. Look at how much it's giving Tim Harris. He's 232 k's an hour compared to John Merritt, who's peaking at 225. So a huge amount of extra speed to be had from the 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th place drivers behind race leader John Merritt.
You can see Tom Freer there in the background. He is only just half a second away from the car in front. Then it's about a 1.4 second gap back to Tony Baker. So Tony wants to get a part of this action. He's got to find a little bit of speed from somewhere or rely on the guys in front to trip over each other and allow him to come back into it. But pretty seasoned, experienced drivers, these guys up the front, they'll know what they have to do to try and minimise the cause of slowing themselves down.
You see your top 4, and then Tony Baker not too far off. Back of them in 5th. It's 1 driver, 4 drivers, 5 drivers who don't have a fastest lap of the race to this point, which means that on every lap so far, they've been off track at least once. It's Doug Gowans, Brent Wassell, Warren Henry, Ben Wheeler, and Milton Borton. It's Nathan Burney in 6th. He's got a clean lap to his name. Doug Gowans spun off at Lafania a lap ago. That was one of the reasons for him that he hasn't had a clean lap in this race just yet. Ira Felberg back in 8th is the biggest mover of the race, equal to Jordan Dakin. They've both made 5. And Jamie Stovall back to the race lead. Timothy Harris to 2nd. John Merritt from that lead runs back into 3rd position at the moment.
We have a quick look at Warren Henry, who seems to be still circulating at a reasonable pace, even though he's had that wild off-track excursion that we focused on a little earlier. Ben Wheeler back in 12. He suffered a little bit of carnage and damage early on. He's down 4 positions from where he started, and there is absolute daylight to the car in front. So Nathan Verney there having a bit of a loosey-goosey moment on the exit of turn 1 and the run down on Rouge.
So that's cost Nathan Verney just a little bit. Having a look at Doug Gowans. Now this is approaching Lafania. He was right with looking at the leaders, but as he comes in here, he's wide and fast and he spins out. Doesn't hit anything, but that's where he lost those positions.
Elite. Losing plenty of track time. We're getting style points in the process. So this is a quick look at Nathan Verney's little incident on Ozicar.net replay. Potentially very hard on the brakes into turn 1. The back gets loose and he does a pretty good job of getting out of the way, and plenty of run-off room between the fences for the cars to turn around here and carry on their merry way.
Used to be a lot tighter around turn 1, the source there, but then they've opened up a bit more of the runoff. You get that little drop away at the apex of the hairpin there as well, and if you're just a little oversteery as you hit that, that's looped him around. So Stovall back to the lead, Harris second, Merritt third, Tom Freer, of course, not letting the top 3 get away, especially with his teammate leading proceedings at the moment. Baker's managed to get just a little bit closer, and it could be frustrating for him as he runs a bit wide there. Just seeing that top 4 oh so close together, and he's not quite getting that slipstream that we've seen from some of the onboards is so super powerful in these cars once you get up into 6th gear.
Yeah, it might be a team strategy with John Merritt and Tim Harris here want to try and slow down the SSR cars and actually bring Tony Baker back into this, because then they'll have 3 versus 2 in the battle for the top 5. So that could be a play we'll have to keep an eye on. Whether they're in chat and whether they're even thinking about that, time will soon tell.
Had a couple of drivers pit to this point, but almost all of them it seems like it was for damage, like Brent Wassell, Warren Henry, who we saw go for a really big ride, and Milton Borton as well. Wonder if they're quite yet in the window to make it to the end. Our predictor said that it should be 13 or 14 laps of fuel, and there's probably still 15, 16 laps left in this one, so a little while away from the window opening to 1 stop this race. Side by side on the Kemmel Straight, Jamie Stovall with his nose in front of Tim Harris. John Merritt getting a big slipstream, but cracking the throttle a little bit, I suspect, from there. And that's good news for Tony Baker. He was quicker than the leaders on the last lap by the tune of about half a second, so he's really pushing on, trying to make sure he can catch this leading group, catch that slipstream, and make it a 5-way fight for the race win at Spa.
Yeah, something we haven't spoken about too. It's very, very easy to save fuel around here as well. Lots of opportunity for you to just roll and coast through corners. So if any of the drivers up the front are potentially thinking about that, it might just pay dividend to sit back in 2nd or 3rd, save fuel, not punch the hole in the air for everybody else. And that could just give you a 2 or 3 second deficit you might need at a pit stop. So that's something to keep in mind as well. There's a few different strategies at play here that could go either way. So there's we jump on board Tony Baker. He hasn't made a lot of ground, but he's still in this top 5 battle nonetheless.
This fuel strategy advice brought to you by our leading fuel strategy expert, Jason Fewens.
It's easier to do it for someone else than do it for yourself. Apparently, I balls up my own on Thursday night, so I've done a bit of thinking about how I could have done things differently.
No, good call, and I totally agree with what you're saying, that Tom Freer, we've seen sit in that 4th place there, doesn't really look like he wants to attack. He's happy to let them do whatever it is they're doing in front, like Tim Harris going back for the race lead again on the inside of Blanchimont, cutting across the nose of Jamie Stovall, and then Merritt sitting in 3rd. Tom Freer has been the driver who's had so much slipstream, probably saved the most fuel, just based on where he's positioned. Now Baker has caught them. This is your top 5 now, with Freer and Baker on the tail end of the train. Harris, Stovall and Merritt have been the drivers changing the lead so far. That seemed like a pretty decent lift from Freer into 1.
Yeah, it's only 1.5 seconds from first back to fifth, so everybody getting draft opportunity at this point. Jamie Stovall still holding the fastest lap of the race. So tyres probably well and truly past their prime at the moment, so that probably won't change too much until we get some fresh tyres and a lighter fuel load later in the race. Looks like Tom Freer's just lost a couple of tenths coming up through on Rouge though, but by the time he gets into the braking zone up here, I suggest he might be back on the top three in front.
So a bit of fuel saving happening from the fourth place driver. Jamie Stovall gets the race lead back from Tim Harris, and then John Merritt. Tony Baker still there in fifth place, but what a good job he's done over the last couple of laps. He has well and truly caught this lead group right now and put himself in contention for the podium and maybe even the win. But a lot of racing still to happen from Spa. 50-minute race with 35 still to go. Looking like 14 or 15 laps remaining.
You can see just in the background, Dougie Gowans there. He's 6.5 seconds away from the leader, so a bit of a no-man's drive for him. He'll be hoping there is some carnage up at the front so he has an opportunity to make some ground, but following Dougie, you do have Nathan Verney as well. We saw him have a little spin before where Gowans got through. So 10 seconds off the lead. So outside the top five, they are spread out reasonably well. There won't be a lot of fuel saving going on there at that stage. Jordan Dakin and Ira Felberg sitting in 8th and 9th as well, only separated by 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, I was looking at that because we've seen Jordan Dakin be incredibly quick at points so far this season, but he's only 2 tenths quicker than Ira Felberg the last lap around. Still just out of the slipstreaming at the moment from Brent Wassel, who's been through the pits and returned in 10th. Warren Henry 11th. Ben Wheeler had a pretty decent set of repairs there to get going again in 12th. Still too early for our leaders to be able to pit. And Freer's making some moves here. He's now looking for second place, so he's not sitting in fourth no more. He's past John Merritt. He's side by side with Tim Harris and now ahead of Tim Harris, heading through turn number 1. The Synergy Sim Racing guys are now in a 1-2 position. Does that signal they think this could be their in-lap? They might look to pit together, because it's a change of attitude from Tom Freer, definitely.
Yeah, it looks like Tom's lit the afterburners in the last half of that lap as well. That might have been the fact that Tony Baker's actually caught onto the back of the group as well. Just didn't want to have the pulse tuning Toyota Echuca livery car behind him, and prefer to sit behind his teammate and play a wingman. So he made the move past a couple of cars and finds himself currently in second. Again, the two teammates will be talking to each other via communications, and they'll know exactly what each other's thinking at this stage of the race.
Even the slow corners are pretty quick for an F4 car. That's third gear for the F4 car, when it could be second or even first in a GT3 car around here. And then you'll be pretty close to flat out, heading into the double left-hander here. Just having to slow it up a little bit, getting the car rotated, and then getting to the throttle again in fifth gear. Still heading downhill towards Lafanya. Teammates are getting super close here, first and second place, and no matter how hard they push on, they're not shaking those behind. Tim Harris is all over Freer's gearbox. John Merritt and Tony Baker there. You've got your top 5 within 1 second right now, so it really could come down to just, half a second of time in the pit box when it comes to refuel.
So we're looking at the back of Tom Freer at the moment, and it's just 1, 2, 3 teammates all sitting in a stern. It is led by Tom Harris, and looks like Tom Freer taking the lead. So Jamie Stovall just punching the hole in the air for the first couple of laps now is giving Tom a chance to go across and lead a lap at the end of this one. Big dive under brakes there from John Merritt.
I don't think he even meant to. He just found himself in a situation he was out braking a couple of cars and had to face to the inside. Slowed them all up a little bit behind. None of them pit just yet, though. Tim Freer goes to the race lead from Jamie Stovall, John Merritt, Tim Harris, and Tony Baker. And on that lap, Doug Gowan's not quite able to make any gains on the leading 5.
He is doing a pretty good job at the moment, though, considering he's not getting any draft. All the guys in front while they might be tripping over each other slightly, they are getting draft as well. So Dougie Gowan's just sitting there plodding away, like he's not making a lot of ground, but a little bit here and there can soon add up, particularly over the course of the 50-minute race.
Merritt might look to get in between the teammates here. Tough to do because he pulls out of the toe while the driver he's alongside with still has it. He's down the inside. Stovall's lifted out. Merritt goes through into that second place. So now we've seen a few of them change positions a few times. With the exception of Tony Baker, he's still there in fifth, hasn't made any attacks just yet.
Yeah, from the highest part of the circuit, it's all downhill pretty well until the last sector now. So a long right-hand sweeper there. Now we go through a long sequence. I think it's 3 or 4 left-handers in a row. You can see Dougie Gowan's there in the background as well, going under the Vodafone sign, still making no progress on these guys in front. But Tom Freer taking that lead out to just over half a second at the moment. So he's picked up the pace, and the cars behind are going to have to answer in kind.
Through the twisty middle sector of the lap, normally one where a lot of grip will net you a lot of lap time, and then you think about the final sector here as being very high speed, low drag, and then if you're low drag along the Kemmel Straight, you'll make a lot of speed. And the top 5 are struggling a little bit further out than they were at times previously, between Tom Freer at the lead and Tony Baker in fifth there, and some of that was because they went side by side through the bus stop a lap ago. When John Merritt was alongside Stovall, now he's alongside Freer, now he's past Freer and into the lead of the race, and all of them still dodging pit lane.
Yeah, everybody continues around for another lap, so nobody taking the pit lane opportunity at this stage. It is John Merritt out in front, Tom Freer, Jamie Stovall, Tim Harris, Tony Baker. That makes up your top 5 as they go through turn number 1. Hitting the apex and using all of the exit and then some as they make their way down past the old GP pits, the very seen and used in the old GP days back in the 50s and 60s.
And then it's still used for the full GT layout as well occasionally. Up the Kemmel Straight we go. Leading the way, John Merritt, and Freer and Stovall behind just crack the throttle. Tim Harris has a crack at the throttle as well, and there's that real sort of middle of the race gamesmanship going on, what we know is a high speed, high slipstream race. And they're not far away from the halfway point of the race. A 50-minute race, so 25 to go in 1 lap's time would be the halfway point. We're within the window where you could stop and make it to the end, we do believe, but no one wants to do that. Like Daytona or Talladega, you probably don't want to pit alone.
Definitely, there is a big undercut here at Spa, but you definitely need a towing partner or a draft buddy to go with you. Luckily for each of these drivers, they do have someone that can potentially do that for them, a teammate in this top 5 pack. Ideally, you want to get in nice and clean, and you're not sharing pit base, so you're not going to slow each other down if you pit at the same time. Fuel should be relatively close between all these drivers as well, so if you go in together, you should exit together as well.
And the fuel refilling, I'm pretty sure, is quite quick, and then these cars, because of their light, small displacement nature, are relatively fuel efficient anyway. They're not taking on board 120 litres like a supercar. It'll be a small number, and it fills relatively quickly. Finish out the lap here, and you see second, third, fourth, fifth all just rolling into the braking zone there, wanting to stay behind John Merritt. No one wants to lead, and that is bringing Doug Gowans into the picture. He's gone from 6 seconds behind the leaders to 4 seconds behind the leaders, but what's important isn't the gap from him to race leader John Merritt, it's the gap from him to the car on the tail end of the train, and that's only 2 seconds from Douglas Gowans to Tony Baker in 5th place right now. He's hoping for more of this gamesmanship, slow each other down, lift off into the braking zones type stuff. How about side by side up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion to try to bring Douglas Gowans into the picture?
Yeah, Douglas would have been rubbing his hands together seeing that go too wide up through on Rouge. So we're definitely slowing the pace of the back pack of this leading bunch just a little bit. You can see the visual gap there from Gowans through to Jamie Stovall now sitting in 5th position, and it's down to 1.4 seconds.
We've got some pit callers like Jordan Dakin has just come in, Ira Felberg as well, and they've taken 7 and 8 seconds of fuel. So it is a pretty short stop, all things considered. We're definitely past that halfway point in the window. A few drivers thinking about that at the moment. So your leading 5 becomes a leading 6. Heading down the hill through the middle sector, we've seen a few drivers manage to work their way up to the front. Tony Baker, like Douglas Gowans, and Baker's now in front of Stovall as well.
A really good drive from Douglas Gowans there. He's come from a long way back to find himself with an invitation to this little party of what is now 6 drivers. Lap traffic's not going to be a problem for these guys, so they don't have to worry about coming out in too much traffic, I wouldn't have thought. Long circuit here, a lot of the drivers behind this are fairly well spaced out. It's Nathan Verney still sitting, what is he, about 8 or 9 seconds behind this group, and then there's a big gap back to Warren Henry, so that's 7 or 8 second gap, or pit stop, plus the lane transit time, if I get my words out correctly. Should see these guys in a clean pocket of air.
Massive checkup in the Blanchimont, as apparently no one wanted to lead, and they are now going to head to pit lane, a few of them. So that's Baker and Harris, while the other 4 stay out. Teammates Tom Freer and Jamie Stovall, and John Merritt and Douglas Gowans 4 stay out, 2 go in. Is this tactically a genius move, or is it going to leave Harris and Baker out to dry?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, John Merritt there didn't get the memo, or he's elected to stay with the lead group, and he's feeling pretty comfortable with the times and the condition of the car at the moment. Sometimes if you're in a good rhythm, you just want to keep going and keep banking laps and not allow yourself to get out of the groove. Douglas Gowans there getting a really good draft opportunity down the Kendall Straight as well. So braking zone up here, he should be right on the back of Jamie Stovall without any worries whatsoever.
Well, have a look at this. Merritt pulls out and then he rolls out of the throttle. He keeps Jamie Stovall behind him. Warren Henry's in the pits for the second time, and that will fuel him to get to the end after he stopped earlier to repair some damage, flying through the air at the bus stop chicane from some wheel-to-wheel contact in the braking zone. So it just leaves you with 5 drivers who haven't stopped. It's these 4 out front, plus Nathan Verney. Everyone else has been through the lane at least once. There are a few drivers though, like Brent Wassell and Ben Wheeler, that I think we're going to have to see a second time. I don't think they're fueled to get to the end, even though they have been through the lane once. One thing to keep an eye on, I guess, is the gap. Tim Harris and Tony Baker to Tom Freer, and right now it's 16.5 seconds by my measurement. On screen says 16.5 as well. So let's take that as gospel with 2 points of data. The total stop delta for these leaders needs to be less than 16 seconds if they're going to come out and still maintain a lead over Tim Harris and Tony Baker.
Yeah, just for reference, Tim Harris and Tony Baker came out just behind Nathan Verney as well. So Verney's still the pit, but that has given Tim Harris and Tony Baker still a little bit of draft on their out lap as well. So unless these guys have a good clean stop, and if Nathan Verney decides to keep going, they might find themselves behind him as well on older rubber.
So we're about to see from the leaders, are they going to react to the pit stops, or have they got a couple more laps in them? This will be bringing to the end of 12 laps in the race, and they can go further, and they will go further. Douglas Gowans is in, but Freer, Merritt and Stovall stay out. Tight little pit entrance there for Gowans, who might have scraped the wall, but there'll be no dramas, because even if he did, he can get prepared quickly, and he stopped that he's going to make right now. Harris took just 5 seconds of fuel, and so did Tony Baker. They had really quick stops. With the savings that they made, and then maybe also the savings they expect to make in the second half of the race post pit stop. Here they go as Douglas Gowans completes his at 5.1 seconds according to my timing, 4.9 according to ours on screen. So these are really quick pit stops.
Yeah, Gowans out of the pits as well, so he's got latched onto the back of Tony Baker. Nathan Verney has dived into pit lane as well. So he's taken the opportunity to make his compulsory pit stop. That will allow these guys here to get on with it, and if they can race clean and smart, they just might do what they need to do to jump the leading group of Tom Freer, John Merritt, Jamie Stovall and Timmy Harris.
So left with Freer, Merritt and Stovall as the three drivers who haven't pitted, and you see them right here, teammates sandwiching John Merritt. He is between the two drivers who were the form of the field last time out 2 weeks ago at Jerez. This is fair to say a bit of a different track and different race formats than Jerez.
Yeah, Jerez provided really good racing, but it was quite a short track and very little time for the drivers to catch their breath. There is a number of opportunities around here where the drivers can stop and smell the roses. They can look out the side of the car and see the crowd up on the hill on the Belgian countryside, a complete contrast to some of the other circuits we've been to. We'll look a bit further back in the field. This is Brent Wassel and Ira Felberg still battling for 8th and 9th. So it's not just a battle up the front on track, there's still some close battles further deeper in the field that we can concentrate on.
So Brent Wassel looks like he's caught Ira along the Kemmel Straight and then gone to the inside of the Lacombe chicane, and might have even just spooked Ira a little bit there as Brent Wassel went through. Ooh, race onto pit lane, but only for 2 of the leading 3. John Merritt and Jamie Stovall are in. Tom Freer, who was in that fuel-saving position for a long time, and he is going to go around for 14 laps in this opening stint. There's 8 left to go as John Merritt and Jamie Stovall pit. And they ought to be pretty close to Tim Harris and Tony Baker, because here's Harris right now at racing speed. But the 2 drivers I mentioned are right near the pit exit side. Really quick stop from Merritt, slower stop from Stovall.
Yeah, I thought Stovall might have been one of those ones with a really short pit lane transit time because he saved so much fuel early on, but not to be the case. John Merritt with the fastest lap of the race currently in P2 as Jamie Stovall comes out of the pits and slides in between Tony Baker and Douglas Gowans.
So John Merritt got out of the pit lane ahead of Tim Harris, but had a bit of a slide there on the exit of Radion. Tim Harris goes back ahead, and now John Merritt will maybe think about leapfrogging it with him. See, he goes back down the inside. Tom Freer, the only driver who hasn't stopped, is 17 seconds ahead of them right now.
Yeah, and that's right on the time that you said earlier. 16 to 17 seconds was the expected trans time down through pit lane and to take your fuel. So if that's the case, you will find Tom Freer, as expected, to come right in amongst this battle. But he potentially has tyres that'll be 2 or 3 laps fresher than those around him.
See what happened. Ooh, okay. High speed up through there. And Tim Harris got back ahead for a short little moment.
Yeah, that might have been just Timmy Harris having warmer tyres up to temperature, and John Merritt just taking a bit of precaution, throwing it to the wind as he goes up through en rouge for the first time on some fresh rubber.
This is Freer on what we can only assume is going to be his in-lap, approaching the bus stop chicane. Pit entry's on the right, sort of halfway through here. And indeed, he's going to head for pit lane. His own teammate, Jamie Stovall, a bit of a long stop. Might be quite a bit behind him by the time Freer comes through the lane and finds his guys. Freer qualified 3rd, so he's looking for pit stall number 3 down the pit exit end of the lane. The rest of the field are now working out of the bus stop and onto the main straight.
Yeah, so Tom Freer in the pits, John Merritt, Tim Harris just going past on the left-hand side. Like you said, he's at the end of the pit lane. It is a tight turn. You can see him come out. But he's going to have cold tyres, and he's going to have a barrage of cars with Gowans, his teammate Stovall, Tony Baker, all breathing down his neck.
Well, very, very interesting. Freer and Stovall, a bit longer stops than the others. I think there's a last stop time button for the timing column. But the gang are back together. Tim Harris and John Merritt up front, leapfrogging off each other with 4 angry cars behind. Going to hunt them down. Jamie Stovall, Tom Freer, Tony Baker, and Doug Gowans. There it is. Your 2 that are the breakaway and your 4 that are the peloton, as they say here in Belgium.
So we've got 2x4 sitting out there at the moment. Doug Gowans having a big look under brakes into the long right-hand downhill section. Not really a passing opportunity unless you've got complete confidence in your tyres and your ability. So he backs out of it and falls back in line as Tony Baker takes a rather wide exit out of the left-hander down the hill.
Freer might have also gone wide. There's an off-track out there, but there's no slowdown out there. So I think that's your key consideration. Here are the teammates side by side again, heading into Lafanya. Perhaps not ideal to be racing like this. Stovall almost looking to defend Freer a little bit. Right now there's 2 seconds between second place John Merritt and Stovall in third, a gap that they're going to have to close down in this stint. Otherwise the also tuning the Chuka Toyota teammates could run away with it. High speed out of Curva Freya for the run towards Blanchimont. Merritt and Harris, are they battling or are they swapping places? They're swapping places. Same 2 for Freer and Stovall. Now Gowans is side by side with Baker, heading towards the braking zone here. You can't run too deep lest you run up the back of the car in front. That's the issue Baker almost had. He's trying to outbrake Gowans alongside of him, while Stovall now lifted out of the throttle to coast into the corner and try to slot in behind his own teammate. This is your top 6, all having made their final stop. We're racing to the end at Spa.
Yeah, Gowans is going to have to do a bit of mental telepathy and talk to Tony Baker somehow and just work together if they're going to have any chance of getting in front of these 2 SSR cars. Looks like their teammates in Tim Harris and John Merritt have checked out there up to 1.7 seconds down the road. That's the gap between second and third at the moment. So you can just see visually on your screen what that is. So the battle from third, fourth, fifth and sixth should be well and truly out of draft of the leading 2 cars.
Could be close. Got to see another flying lap from a couple of the competitors here to really know what kind of speed they're at after their pit stops. I feel like the gap between second and third place has come down from 2 seconds to about 1.6. Yeah, there it is. So it's close, and you can believe that Tom Freer is pushing on hard as he can to try to stop Merritt and Harris getting away.
Yeah, you've got to remember Tom Freer's probably got that tyre advantage as well, so he's probably got 4 or 5 laps fresher tyres than the 2 cars in front, and if he can tow those other guys behind him so they're not putting too much heat into their tyres and overdriving the thing, we could end up with a 6-way battle for the lead in the dying sections of this race. It's only 12.5 minutes to go before the drop of the checker flag.
Warren Henry's made 2 stops after the damage, and he's now closing up towards Jordan Dakin. So that's 9th and 10th, as well as the battle for top 6. Oh, maybe a bit of a lock-up there from Dakin, heading through the downhill right-hander, alternatively known as either Brussels or Rivage.
Yeah, Warren Henry, car 67 on screen at the moment, probably my pick of the drivers who's most improved this season as well. So he's had some really good results and good solid. Oh, that's very wide from Dakin. Very, very wide out there. So, yeah, but Warren Henry having some really good results inside the top 10. And again, despite having 2 pit stops to this stage of the race, showing pretty good pace as we have a look at the leaders back up the front.
Tom Freer was third, but he locked up in the braking zone at the bus stop. He ran wide. It's cost the pursuing pack quite a good chunk of time. It's given almost a free second to the leaders. There's Freer. He ran wide. His teammate had to go through. The others had to go through. This is how it looked like as they tried to make a swap. There's a mistake. And, well, it plays absolutely into the hands of John Merritt and Tim Harris. It looked like they were going to get caught. They were being caught for sure. That, well, it really extends their stay on death row by a couple of laps.
Yeah, that gap from second through to third now out to 2.5 seconds. So they've got some work to do in the dying 10 minutes of this race if we are going to have a showdown for the podium. good job by Tony Baker to risk-free take third place there as well.
Yeah, a couple of more battles happening. I think you were sort of 2 wide, 3 deep along the Kemmel Straight on that time, as the drivers know there's only 10 minutes left, and they drive quite a bit differently now than they did in the early stages of this 50-minute race. One of the longer races that you'll see from the Ozicar Formula 4. This is 9th place Jordan Dakin, and Warren Henry's getting closer and getting closer, and this is one of the fastest parts of the racetrack, heading up super fast Radion onto the long Kemmel Straight, and Warren Henry gets his nose ahead in the forest, and he'll be ahead by the time they get to the braking zones. Looked like he's had a little bit more speed, but it was the wheel-to-wheel contact between Henry and Wassel earlier in the race gave Henry damage that needed to be repaired and put him onto a 2-stop strategy.
Cars at the highest part of the circuit now as they start to make their way through the downhill section. So it's a long heap of sweeping left-hand and right-hand corners before they make their way to the start of the last sector, which is effectively the lowest point of the circuit. So it's all downhill here for these drivers, carrying plenty of mid-corner momentum, and like I said earlier, very easy to drop a wheel out wide and rack up those incident points. But Warren Henry on screen doing a pretty good job at the moment, and it almost looks like he's starting to drop the back of Jordan Dakin as well.
You've got a battle on further up the field too, where I think Tony Baker is beginning to fight for 3rd place rather than fight to try to catch the top 2, and it's delayed Freer and Stovall somewhat. It's also given an opportunity to Doug Gowans here, and predictively 4 laps to go, and John Merritt, Tim Harris have never enjoyed a better lead than they have right now. Suddenly it's looking good for them. Freer and Stovall, though, we know in clean air at full pace are super quick, and they are back through into 3rd and 4th ahead of Tony Baker now.
Yeah, those 2 SSR cars, when they get their head down and they're playing the same game, very much like a freight train, they just soldier on, and they can make big grounds. So Gowan's looking for the run with the draft on the outside, but he's going to have to potentially concede the position unless he's got the grip underneath him for the switchback, and he falls back in line and lets Tony Baker have the position.
Yeah, it looked like the rub it in line was the place to be for Baker, as he had the inside initially. It's Tim Harris and John Merritt 1st and 2nd, and then look, just a little bit more space than they had before. Freer is no doubt flying along, putting in the best pace that he can, and hoping for a little mistake maybe from the 2 out front at the moment. Little sector comparison here. John Merritt and Tom Freer, and their gap is the important one right now for the character of this race, whether it be a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, so Timmy Harris, John Merritt leading their way through at the moment. Tom Freer and Jamie Stovall just tightening the screws a little bit. They're putting pressure on Tony Baker, who's half a second back, and he has almost dropped Dougie Gowans off this lap as well, who's fallen back another 1.2 seconds. So side by side through the last sector here for John Merritt, Tim Harris, as Merritt goes through and takes the lead for the last part of what is potentially 3 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, I'm trying to work it out. So we're doing 2-minute 20s. So you'd need 7 minutes left on the clock for it to go 4 laps. We don't have that. We're a bit short of it. It's definitely 3 more laps in this race. Three more laps for John Merritt and Tim Harris to try to hold on. 3 more laps for Tom Freer, Jamie Stovall to try to catch them. Tony Baker still riding along with them there, and Doug Gowan seems to have dropped back just a little bit, and then he was wide in La Source this lap just now, and he's losing even more time.
Yeah, so I don't know whether Dougie Gowans has overcooked his tyres, but something's definitely happened in the last couple of laps where he has significantly fallen off the group and just literally seen the battling cars ahead just drive away. So unless something happens here between these 3 drivers, which you don't want to put the commentator's curse on them, but I dare say Dougie Gowans, his fight for a final step of the podium might be out of reach.
Yeah, we'll see but I think he's dropping back a little bit. I wonder if he's maybe a little shorter on fuel compared to some others, because he obviously had to work really hard in the first stint to catch them. Now he's dropped off of this. He might end up in an even bigger hole if he's just a little bit short fueled. Stovald has gotten ahead of Freya.
Yeah, Gowans has got 15 seconds to the car behind as well in Nathan Verney, so he's got plenty of time to save some fuel. Might be just thinking of the championship and consolidating and making sure he gets enough points and actually gets home to greet the checkered flag. So now you say it out loud, I think you might be on the money with that there, Dave.
Want to watch almost contact, almost bump drafting between Stovald and Freya through Curva Paul Freya. Soon. John Merritt and Tim Harris leading the way though, and it's almost another lap completed, and this is not looking any closer. I think it's gloves off in the battle for third now.
Yeah, we've seen the two SSR teammates battle pretty hard over the course of over the season so far. Even 2 of the 3 races back at Jerez, I think actually the whole 3 races were separated by less than a second if you added all their times combined. So like I said, gloves off between these drivers, plenty of respect between them as well, so they know what they have to do to get the job done and get across the line.
Again, now confirming 2 laps to go. John Merritt is out front. Tim Harris had that great start where he made 2 positions very early and then made another one on the Kemmel Straight, and he's been in contention ever since. And Tom Freya and Jamie Stovald no longer up front like they initially were. Tony Baker is going to be the fly around their barbecue, I reckon, for these final couple of laps.
Yeah, you've got to remember, John Merritt, Tim Harris, they were the first cars to actually blink out of the leading group and take their compulsory pit stop as well. So that little bit of time they potentially gained on their outlaps with fresh rubber and low fuel in the later part of the races almost seems a bit of a genius move.
There was definitely a moment there it looked like they would get caught, and then a mistake from Freer, I think it was, as he locked up and ran wide, just gave that 1 or 2 seconds that Merritt and Harris really needed to just stay ahead and not get caught. But it is a big lap. There were very short stops from Merritt and Harris, both of whom had to save quite a bit of fuel early on and still be needing to manage it for the moment. It's just 2 seconds between Tim Harris there and Freer, who's giving his all right now.
Yeah, we jump on board looking over the top of Johnny Merritt. It doesn't look like he is saving fuel too much. You can still see the revs rising as it goes 6,700. Actually is short shifting as well, so fuel might be a concern for these two with the white flag out this time by.
Got to watch him into the braking zone here. Just a little bit of saving from Harris, just a little bit of saving from Merritt. Nothing ridiculous just yet. And they're going to see the white flag that tells them just 7 more kilometres to go. John Merritt leading Tim Harris to begin the final lap. Barney's waving the white flag, but our race leaders aren't giving up on it just yet. Tom Freer has brought the gap down 1.2 seconds. It was out to 3 seconds before. He's got plenty of fuel. He's got fresher tyres. And if he can pull half a second on them through the first half of this lap, he could still get them if Merritt and Harris need to save fuel, and if Freer doesn't.
You know, Freer's going to definitely have some draft opportunity as they go down the Kemmel Straight for the last time. He's taking his teammate with him as well. So it's just definitely something to play with in the amount of ground that third and fourth are made up on the leading 2 cars in the last half of the last lap has been very, very significant. So it is going to be touch and go. John Merritt with the fastest lap of the race, leading this one at the moment, taking his teammate with him, car 093 at Timmy Harris. All downhill here, so this is probably their last opportunity to save a heap of fuel before they come under fire.
Personal best pace from Freer last lap. Personal best pace from Stovald last lap as they run a little bit wide. Freer was wide through Rivage, and this doesn't help them. They were getting oh so close to Merritt and Harris, and then a little mistake once again at a part of the lap where they stood a chance to really be able to close in somewhat. Tony Baker flying the ointment here as well, potentially. You see your top 5 on the final lap here. Still John Merritt leading Tim Harris, who's now quite a little bit further back. I wonder if Harris is fuel saving, and maybe he could end up in a little bit of trouble. They were 2 or 3 tenths apart, and now it's out past half a second.
Yeah, they're at the back end of sector 2, so they're entering the last sector now in the dying stages of the final lap. There still is a 1.2 second gap between second and third, so unless they actually start coughing and spluttering in the last probably kilometre or so, these guys here will get home, pending no more mistakes from the drivers.
They made their breakaway early. John Merritt and Tim Harris were the first to pit. They were banking on those behind, fighting instead of catching them, and in the end, that is what happened. But the teammates will have to settle for just 3rd place as John Merritt and Tim Harris come out of the final corner to greet the checkered flag. Freer and Stovall are wheels interlocked. Tony Baker just in behind them. Merritt wins from Harris, and then Jamie Stovall, who was the bridesmaid to Tom Freer at Jerez, gets one over his championship-leading teammate at Spa, and Tony Baker takes the 5th place. Douglas Gowans will cross the line for 6th. Verney, after his spins, back there in 7th. And of Ira Felberg, who I think has gotten back past Warren Henry and Brent Wassell somewhere along.
Yeah, well, Ira's actually done a pretty good job as well. He's been in front of Warren for quite a while, and he was battling Jordan Dakin there earlier on in the race as well. And Jordan's all the way back in 11th, so Ira putting in some really good, very much required achiever over the course of the race. He's up 5 positions in 5th as he enters the bus stop for the final time. You can see his teammate there shadowing him in the background, easy on the power as he gets out of the final corner to get the checkered flag from Barney. That's teammates in 8th and 9th, just almost rounding out the top 10.
And that's going to make Ira Felberg biggest mover of the race with the +5 positions as the top 10 cross the line. Big lap here, of course, at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. Means that all bar 1 car running is on the lead lap. Milton Borton, unfortunately, has lost a lap across his delayed start and some of the damage that he had, and we lost John Snell early in this. So it makes Ben Wheeler the last car on.
Behind everybody else. It would have been a lonely 50-odd minutes for him, but he's persevered and brought the car home nonetheless. So didn't get a lot of TV time tonight, but big shout out to Milton as well. Had good speed, qualified reasonably well. Just not his night.
Yeah, I think Milton had 7th on the grid. Yes, he did, but then wasn't able to start from there. And then wasn't even able to start promptly from the pit lane. He was about a minute delayed, and then had an accident after that. This is the finishing order: John Merritt from Tim Harris, Jamie Stovall just pipping Tom Freer with a good run out the final corner on the final lap, and Tony Baker following both of them home. Douglas Gowans, Nathan Verney, Ira Felberg, Warren Henry, and Brent Wassell completing that top 10. And then you had Jordan Dakin, Ben Wheeler, Milton Borton, and John Snell was an early retirement in this one. You had 6 cars covered by less than a second for the race lead though. So I'd say it was overall a very exciting race up front with some strategy to play out, and the strategy call made by John Merritt was the correct one in the end.
Yeah, it could have gone either way, but like I said, a bit of tripping over each other and a few mistakes in the second half of the race just allowed that backpack to drop away from get out of the draft of the leading 2 cars, and Timmy Harris and John Merritt making the most of it when they had the opportunity. So we do have a quick look at the podium and first, second, third steps there, where all the drivers want to be. We'll go very shortly and have a chat to the drivers that earned those positions. They're waiting in the interview room, and Dave, I believe you may have Jamie Stovall with yourself.
Yep, the third place finisher just pipping Tom Freer there out of the very, very final corner. It seems like in these 50-minute races, from the very start, you were all playing a little bit of a team game, strategy game, heading towards the pit stops.
Yeah, we knew that me and Tom were up against the two Pulse Echuca cars, and we knew that they were very quick in practice, so sort of tried to formulate a bit of a plan to come out on top team-wise. Didn't quite end up going to plan. I think we ended up having different strategies which sort of conflicted, but yeah, those boys were pretty quick, and the undercut seemed to work as well, so well played to them.
A couple of just little mistakes at potentially critical opportunities when you could have caught them.
Yeah, I think there was a lock up in there. I think we went side by side through a few corners that we probably shouldn't have. Yeah, I sort of wanted to slingshot on the straights, but Tom wanted to be faster on the inside. But either strategy could have worked, and I guess we probably should have just stuck with one. But yeah, there was a few little mistakes that let them pull away in the end. But yeah, it was well played to them again.
2 weeks ago at Jerez, Tom had your number. This time, you two battle it out through the final chicane, and you've just pipped him to the line.
Yeah, it was nice to turn the tables this round. Even if we were trying to work together the whole race. Yeah, the last lap I sort of had my mind set on trying to get that final run on him. But Tony Baker also decided to come and have some fun too, so that also made it a bit more interesting. But yeah, happy to just pip him at the end there, and also to get 0x and a pole should be a few more extra points in the championship.
Bit of pack racing, bit of fuel saving, bit of strategy, some great wheel-to-wheel racing. After 50 minutes, you come away with the pole position. Congratulations, and we'll see you for the 2 remaining rounds.
Yep, see you then. Cheers, guys.
Jamie Stovold of Synergy Sim Racing finishing in 3rd. Tim Harris finished in 2nd, Jason.
Yeah, welcome to the commentary box there, Tim. Absolute stellar performance from yourself tonight, up 3 positions from where you started to find yourself on the 2nd step of the podium. Led plenty of laps throughout the course of the 50 minutes as well, so pace definitely on your side.
Yeah, well, luckily we had Tony Barker working on the setups furiously, so yeah, he's spent a good couple of weeks building the setup for tonight, so really paid dividends, I think.
So you both yourself and our race winner John Merritt were the first ones to blink and actually pit early. Were you talking to each other through communications over the course of the race and coincidentally decided to dive in at the last minute, or was it always part of the strategy and you stayed to that to the end?
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to have Mum doing my fuel numbers for me tonight, so I didn't really have to worry about it too much, just sort of listen to what she was saying as laps rolled on, and I think she really made the best decision. So yeah, thanks, Mum.
If you can't rely on your mum, then who can you rely on these days? But nonetheless, she's got you the silverware, the points, and the glory here tonight to celebrate a podium finish. There was a little bit of team play pretty well from the moment the lights went green. There was the Pulse tuning Echuca Toyota cars as well as the SSR cars, and then all of a sudden you had a third cog in the wheel with your other teammate coming and getting involved.
Yeah, look, everyone was giving it 110%, so just pushing quali lap after quali lap there at the start. Yeah, so geez, how we all stayed on the track, I don't really know, but yeah, it was a great night for the Pulse Echuca boys, and also, yeah, great racing as well from the Synergy team, so thanks very much, guys.
Now, something we did talk about over the course of the broadcast, how was your fuel situation there in the last couple of laps? Because both yourself and as did John Merritt, had relatively short fuel stops, so were you on the smell of an oily road?
I think we're perfect, really. So there's just enough in the tank to go around again. So we knew what we were doing there. I think we're pretty confident there, and yeah, just put some fuel in it, drove it, and yeah, could have gone around another time, I reckon.
Well, it sounds like you had everything under control, mate. Congratulations on a strong result tonight. Potentially your strongest result for the series and a good points haul in the championship as well.
Yeah, look, I've peaked at that, and it's not going to be good here for on. So be warned.
All right, mate. Well, congratulations again. We'll see you for the remaining 2 rounds before we do declare a Formula 4 champion for Season 3 2024. But a great result tonight, great speed. Hopefully you can carry that through for the rest of the season.
Thanks, mate. And best well wishes to Brendan Nealon, another team member. He's having a bit of a motor transplant, I think, going on at the moment. So, cheers to him. I hope he's sitting there watching this and going to be able to get back on the rig soon.
I'm sure he'll be cheering you guys on. Brendan's been part of the Ozicar crew for quite a while now, so I'm sure even if he can't be on track, he'd be there supporting, watching on Simspeed TV through one of the many platforms we're out there broadcasting on. So, good shout out to him, mate. Hopefully Brendan's doing well and recovering okay.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys.
Tim Harris finishing in second. Great strategy. And it was great strategy alongside his teammate, John Merritt. You both went early, John. Worked well together and managed to hold on to that lead that you fought very hard for.
Yeah, no, it was good. And I think the biggest difference is the guys might have taken some tyres and it was just enough to keep them out of our draft. And, nice to have a 1-2. Thanks to my teammate. He was very polite in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, it's teamwork that makes the dream work, as they say. And we also saw just a little bit of Tony Baker mixing it up with Jamie Stovald and Tom Freer in that final segment of the race that also might have just weighted the scales a tiny bit in your favour.
Yeah, 100%. I think, Tony was right in it. So all credit for having a crack and probably just left that gap where it was, which enabled us to get the 1-2, which was nice.
Slipstream is something extremely powerful in these cars around these big tracks here. There's so many places I could see you're basically going to close a whole second down some of these straights.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think it was as prevalent I know I did round 1, but 100% on these big long straights. It's even when others are fuel saving, at one point there early before the pit stop sequence, no one wanted to pass me. I was back to half throttle and no one wanted to lead. So, that tow is definitely massive.
6-way fight for the lead as well behind before the pit stops. You had Douglas Gowans, Tony Baker, etc., all catching this sort of leading train. You were 6 cars within 1 second for a little while there. Did that prompt you to stop a little early, or was that always the strategy?
No, I didn't have another lap, to be honest. I probably started to save fuel later, and I think Jamie was the same. We were saving fuel a bit later than Tom particularly, and so there wasn't another lap in it. And I also think that the fueling so quick with these things is not much of an advantage to get that extra lap. So it was a matter of pit or die, pit or run out of fuel. So it was an easy strategy to make.
Yeah, indeed. Seems like it in the end. Congratulations. You come away with the win. You make things just a little tougher for championship leader Tom Freer as well.
Oh, well, no, it was good racing. It was thoroughly enjoyable. So quick shout out to Brendan, one of our teammates recovering at the moment.
Tim gave us the same message as well. So I'm sure everyone from Ozicar and the competitors are hoping for the best there.
Yeah, thanks, David. Appreciate it.
2 more rounds left, John. What's the chance we see a little bit more pulse tuning Echuca Toyota action?
I'll hopefully should hopefully make the next 2. So if I can assist the teammates in the battle, I'll be there, and if not, we'll have a crack at the W. It's they're thoroughly fun to drive, these things. So I don't understand why we don't have a bigger field. So I'd definitely encourage anyone to come and have a run.
Yeah, fantastic. You make it look like good fun, and you get that W tonight. Congrats.
Thanks, Dave.
Oh, there we go, Jason. Our podium, and all of them in pretty good spirits after that.
Yeah, we look forward to the next round. It's going to be in a fortnight's time here on Simspeed TV. We're off to the Red Bull Ring. It's going to be another draft track, another circuit that's very, very well suited to Formula cars. Going to be some great passing opportunities in turn 1, turn 3, turn 4. as well as down through the twisty part of the circuit past the big bull we're looking at the moment. So weather could play a part. We'll have to wait and see what unfolds on the 19th of August. But in between now and then, Dave, we do have another Ozicar event happening this weekend. It's the Tin Top Cup number 7, the 86ers at Sandow. So that's this weekend, Sunday the 11th of August. It is kicking off at 3 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. There is 45 grid spots open, so if you want to get involved, you like what you see on the broadcast tonight and think you might want to throw your hat in the ring, these Toyota 86s provide some really good racing. It's at one of Australia's premier circuits, got some great history here. This is a car where you can really ride the curbs, and the Sandow's got some curbs to offer, so no doubt it's going to be an absolute cracking event, as the Tin Top Cups normally are. IRA puts on a really good show. So if anyone out there watching tonight wants to get involved, get across to the Ozicar Discord page. You can find him on Facebook as well. Reach out to IRA, and I'm sure he'll take your name, put you down as a contender, and you could experience some of that Ozicar glory that we witnessed tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Ozicar.net, Ozicar Facebook page, find him on Discord. The links are all floating around out there, and we look forward to that event. That should be a really, really good one. Congratulations to your winner again tonight, John Merritt from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in the Ozicar Formula 4 series. And we'll see you again for Formula 4 in 2 weeks' time here on Simspeed TV. Thank you to No Social Hate Campaign, Sim Racing League, Locked On Lads, Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving for their support. Been David Haynes with Jason Fewens, Daniel Yeaman on the production from another great Ozicar event.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.